These Freedom Offroad 3-inch front lift struts are a great choice for the 2014 and newer F-150 owners looking for a bit more than a basic spacer lift for the front of the truck and an improvement when it comes to ride quality if your current set is worse for wear. Now this set is also an affordable way to get some height for better ground clearance and a better look to the F-150 while serving as a great starting point to modify your suspension if you want more of a custom setup compared to being locked into a full lift kit. Now they also don't require modification if you want an easy way to add some height with minimal components. However, I do want to mention that this set will not fit the Raptor model, so just keep that in mind when checking these out. This set, being taller than factory, offers 3 inches of lift to generously raise the truck, helping with ground clearance for off and on-road endeavors, a much better look compared to the factory rake, and the ability to fit up to a 35-inch tire very comfortably inside the wheel well. Now with the height increase also comes an improvement in the ride quality and the performance, which is great if your current set is squishy, leaking, or just is in need of a refresh. Now these will successfully tighten up your suspension compared to the worn set of struts, but will be more of an entry-level style option, so they're going to have a lot more comfort compared to a higher performance choice, very similar to the OE ride quality, which is perfect for day-to-day driving. Now these have a steel body construction with a silver powder coat, being very durable and able to handle the day-to-day abuse. Now these also have a large 40mm piston and hard chromed piston rod that will resist damage very well over time and eliminate any nicks that could potentially lead to leaking, and they do come with a nice shock boot or strut boot to avoid any damage as well. Now, the struts are also pre-assembled with the springs, bushings, and other hardware installed for direct bolt-in install, and this set comes with all the hardware required for the swap. Now again, the major components included in this kit are the struts, and that's really it. So I do recommend picking up a set of upper control arms to pair with this kit to help with drivability and performance. Now this set of struts is about $400. Now other 3-inch lift kits may have some additional components or higher performance features that you may not necessarily need for your build if you're looking to keep it simple and affordable, and if you're dailying your truck or doing any lighter trail riding where you don't need a high performance model or option. Now I think if 3 inches is your goal, you want a system that you can build off of and a fairly inclusive kit in order to achieve it when it comes to the height compared to spacer choices, then this is a solid option to consider. Now install isn't too tough. It's a 2 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter, and it should really take about 3 hours or so with the right experience and setup and tools required for the job. Now at this point, I'm going to hand it over to one of our installers here. They're going to show you a detailed breakdown on how you can bolt these up to your F-150 at home. So that wraps it up for what I have to say. Let's go ahead and get to the install.
Tools required for this install include a couple different size impact guns, 15 and 27mm wrenches, 15 and 18mm ratcheting wrenches, a hammer, an extension, swivel adapter, 15, 18 and 21mm sockets, a pry bar, and pole jacks or jacks. What's up guys? Today we're installing a leveling kit on our F-150. First we're going to watch a quick uninstall video showing you how to remove your factory struts, and then I'll meet you back here for the install.
All right, so we're gonna start off by disconnecting our sway bar link from our knuckle just to get us a little bit more movement. So we're gonna grab our impact and 21mm socket and take this nut off. Now we're gonna get our sway bar link out. If you need to, you can use a little pry bar just to give it a little pivot to free that up. Next, we're gonna disconnect our tie rod. So we're gonna take our same 21mm socket and take off our nut. Now you see that came loose, came out of our knuckle. If you need to, you can grab a hammer if it's stuck and just tap right here. Should break it free. Just gonna let that rest down like so. We're gonna switch to our 18mm socket and take off our 2 nuts on the lower control arm for our strut. Now we're gonna take our 2 bolts out of the back of our control arm. So I'm gonna take a marker and actually just outline our nut here, just so we can put that in a similar place when going back together. This is a slotted hole, so we'll move back and forth. You will need alignment after this, so this just gets us close enough. So we're gonna grab our impact and 21mm socket on the head and a 27mm wrench on the nut. and take both the front and the back bolts out. So let's leave that loose for now. We're gonna make sure we mark the rear bolt too. And then take this one out too. Bolts out. Just make sure you have a hand on this because this will swing down. We're just gonna wiggle that off of our strut studs like so. Now that the bottom of our strut is loose, we're gonna take our 15mm ratcheting wrench and take our top 3 nuts off up here. Once you get them loose, you can just spin them off. We're gonna do 2 of them, and then the last one you'll need to support the strut to help get off. So we'll spin that off and then take our strut out completely. Now that you have your factory strut out, you can go ahead and repeat the same thing on the other side.
So now we're ready to install our new strut. So I'm gonna get this into the upper mount and hand thread on my 3 nuts. Now we're going to take our new bolts and put them down through the top of our strut and then through our lower control arm. And then I'm going to thread my nuts onto the bottom. These are new nuts included in the kit. And then I'm just going to leave those loose for now. So now I've got a couple pole jacks underneath of our lower control arm pivot points. Now, if you're doing this on the ground, you can do this with a couple of jacks as well. So now I'm just gonna raise my pole jacks to get them into the mounts. I can use my pry bar to pull over a little bit, straighten it out. Now you start working on this other side. Now to make that rearward mount a little bit easier, I'm just gonna remove these 4 15mm bolts holding in the skid plate with a 15mm socket. Get a hand on it before you remove the last one. And then you can drop this down and out of the way. So now we can start raising this side up. We've got a lot more room to get into that pocket. Now I'm gonna take a pry bar to shift this over just a little bit. Pop that pry bar out, keep going up a little more. Now that we're in the mount on both sides, I'm gonna go back to the other side. Now I'm gonna readjust the pole jack on this side a little bit. And once you have your bolts through on both sides, you can thread your nut on. And then you can remove your pole jacks. We're gonna leave these loose for now. We're gonna tighten them under load once we have our suspension reinstalled. Now that we have our bolts in, we can reinstall our skid plate. I'm gonna thread in these 2 bolts at the back first since they're slotted. So now I'm gonna raise my skid plate back up into place and start threading in my bolts. Then take a 15mm socket and tighten them down. Next, we can tighten down our lower strut bolts. So grab a 15mm wrench on the bolt side and an 18mm socket on the nut side. Next, we can reinstall our tie rod end and our sway bar end link. And then you can take a 21mm socket for both of those. Next, take a 15mm ratcheting wrench and go up top and tighten down your upper strut nuts. So now I've got a pole jack under the front of our lower control arm. I've cranked it up to put a load on our suspension so that we can tighten down our bushings. Now you don't want to tighten down your bushings when it's at full droop, because once you tighten that completely down, once you put the weight of the vehicle back on it, this is going to turn and you risk tearing or wearing out your bushing. Now you can use a pry bar to get in here to line up the marks that we made before we uninstalled this. Now once again, this isn't going to be perfect, it's just going to be good enough to get you down to the alignment shop to get it professionally done. So I'm going to use my pry bar to line up my marks, and then I'm going to get my 21mm socket. I'm using a swivel adapter with it, and a 27mm wrench, tighten those down. And then we'll check on this side. This side looks pretty well aligned. Push it in just a little bit. And now you can repeat the whole process on the other side. So that'll wrap up this review and install of the Freedom Offroad 3-inch front lift struts for your 2014 and newer 4-wheel drive F-150, excluding Raptor. Thank you for watching, and for all things F-150, keep it right here at AmericanTrucks.com.